Let's talk about it.
Hello and welcome back to Thicc Radio, the award-winning podcast where we talk about gaining, fetishism, and everything in their orbit. I'm James.
And I'm Tim, so let's get into it. Today we're welcoming to the show for the first time. Today we've got Elijah.
Hi.
Hello, my love. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Doing good.
Doing good, honey. Oh, we were really looking forward to this episode because, y'all, we're talking about life in Hawaii today, and this is another one of those grand examples of, like, bitches be in different time zones. So, Elijah, it's truly morning time for you. You said you only woke up, like, what, an hour ago, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Fabulous. At time of recording, I've had dinner, and I'm in that process of, like, having my cuppa and pondering dessert for the evening. So, truly an international conversation today. So, Elijah Babes, are you ready to get into it?
Of course.
Fabulous. Well, as always, we like to kick it off nice and simple. Tell us about where you're from. What is the day-to-day culture and vibe like in Hawaii?
So I live on Oahu, which is like one of the main islands of Hawaii. And day-to-day culture, I really just go to work and come home because I'm an introverted homebody.
I mean, girl, you're preaching to the choir on that front. Like, what is it like though in terms of I'm a little curious. What's it like getting about? Because Australia, like I've grown up coastal, so I'm familiar with like beach culture and coast roads and moments like that. But like in terms of getting about the island or the islands plural, like is it relatively easy to get about the place or is it a little like limited?
I mean, going to some areas, there's only like one road in and one road out. So especially so the North Shore of the island is known for like the surf. And so that if there's a lot of people, like if it's summer break or something, you could be in traffic for, I mean, it's not that long, but it's long for over here. So it would be like half an hour just like sitting in traffic.
Yeah, on an island, that's substantial. You know,
No, it is. It is.
Mm.
Like,
What about in terms of like getting amongst the islands? Like, I'm a little curious about that element because obviously most of us only have the context of like, if you're thinking town to town, there is a road connecting that town.
there's flights to every island from Oahu. Even like the smaller islands. I think it's called, no, what is that tiny Lahaina or Lanai? Lanai is that small one. There's even flights there. And flights, I've only been to Maui and it only took like half an hour. So,
Okay. Like, my understanding is the islands are like far enough apart, but they're not like leagues apart. Like, we're not talking Kiribati here.
yeah, so like you can see them. Like if you're on Maui and you're up high, then you can see Oahu. And I don't remember if you could see the Big Island, but like you can see them from each other,
Hmm.
but you can't like row a boat or something to them. And we used to have a cruise ship that would go between them, but I think that stopped.
But it's always interesting to hear about what life is like in different places. And like you say, you're a bit of a homebody. I think that's most of us as gainers to an extent. Even those of us who like to be sociable, there is certainly that adult element of like, I go to work and earn my coins, I come home and I eat in the form of
Yeah.
whatever that is like. And I indulge in my little household activities. Like if I could be so indulgent here, what do you like to do when you're at home and chilling? Like what's the vibe in Hawaii? Do you game? What do you do?
I watch a lot of anime, like a concerning amount of anime.
I mean, that's the only amount of anime that's worth watching is a concerning amount.
Like I'll just binge like 12 episodes in a day and I'll be like, what's next?
My boyfriend does that.
Are you more of a subs or a dubs guy?
So I'll always watch subs first, and if I like it and I just want to hear it in the background, then I'll do dubs after.
I feel like it's always that challenging thing with anime because it very rare, like growing up in the 90s, it was very the whole Sailor Moon of it all, where they had lesbians? Lesbians. They're lesbians on TV, bish. But no, no, they were just sisters, according to the dub. And I am offended on behalf of Uranus and Neptune. How dare you, 4 kids? Bastards!
No, they were absolutely lesbians.
But I want to ask you here, like, what do you feel like is the biggest misconception about life in Hawaii?
So I've only come across this once, but some of my friends had this happen to them where people ask them if we live on or live in huts on the beach. And yeah, it only happened to me once though. But I was like, yeah, and we all have like pet dolphins. And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, absolutely.
Like, and that blows my mind because it's a state. It is a fully developed United
Yeah,
State. It's one of
yeah.
the
And
United
there's
States.
like
Like,
TV shows that film here, but yeah, they just like don't understand what goes on here.
I mean, look, if it makes you feel any better, I'm an Australian and I've had far too many people ask me, do you guys like ride kangaroos? Like, do you get in the pouch and just like hop on down the road? And you're just like,
Oh no.
I love to climb inside a giant other animals extended fucking vagina situation. I just love to climb up in there with all of like its slimes and juices and get them all over my shoes and clothes on my way to like any social occasion. And also everyone learns how to fight with boomerangs. Like, no, no, it's not the tea, not the tea at all. Like, but Tim, I'm gonna put this to you because
yes.
you're the only one of us here that's been to like lived in continental US states and been through the education system and whatnot. Is this like where does this like I must ask you, where does this come from? Like,
Entertainment. It doesn't come from the educate because there are some, not usually in primary or high school, but by the time you get to college, you can take specialty classes and learning other cultures, and most people just don't bother unless they're required for their degree. But entertainment is where that all comes from. Because Crocodile Dundee was a popular series of films, because Bananas in Pajamas was popular, because of I don't know, something else that came along that was Australian themed. And like that's where most people get their perceptions of the world is from entertainment in the United States. It's not good.
but living in huts. No, no, no. I don't. Red wig and a silver dress, living in huts on the beach. I don't think, Mister.
I've said this before too, though, and this is like within the continental United States. When I told people that I had grown up in Kansas City, Missouri, they're like, "Well, did you grow up on a farm?" Because they heard Kansas City, they're thinking that it's an extremely rural, like podunk nowhere town, and I'm like, it's a major metropolitan area. It's like every other city in the United States.
I mean, let me ask you here, Elijah, like, what do you think are elements of Hawaiian, like, typical culture, right? What do you think are elements of Hawaiian culture that people are just missing out on? Like, what do more people need to understand and know about when it comes to just Hawaii in general?
So I see a lot of like Hawaiian themed parties or like luau's, like in media and stuff, and sometimes posts on Facebook. And it's like when they do hula with like those plasticky grass skirts with like the rainbow flower lace, I'm just like, because hula actually like tells a story and it's more than just like waving your body. So that was like one thing that I don't know, it kind of always bugs me.
You should have seen some of the gay luau's that I've attended over the years, and like my ex-husband, my late husband. He would wear one of those cheap plastic grass skirts with like a pair of
Oh no.
briefs under it, or just a cock sock sometimes, because he wanted to show off, and then covered in those cheap plastic lays. And I'm like, this is just such a like this is just another circuit party. That's what this is. It's like once you've been to one of these themed parties, you've been to all of them, and I'm like, this is probably like so disrespectful.
Yeah. I mean, see, we sometimes would give like the plastic lace here, but only because it's so cheap and the flower ones are so expensive.
Truthfully, the only Lays I'm really interested in are Lay's potato chips. So, if I come to visit, you can give me a Lay's potato chips bag on arrival. I will be perfectly happy with that. But that
Oh,
also
I could string them.
Yeah, like all sorts of like instead of like the rainbow colors of like, flowers, it's like all the different flavors, like little crisp bags that are like on a little chain. And I'm just like,
God, you're gonna get covered in crumbs and dust
but that's
and
everyone.
oil.
Sure. The oil will help me bake on the beach, bitch. Like this pink skin, this pork is gonna
Oh,
set.
so you can be the roasted pig
I will be the
at
roast
the.
the proper luau that Elijah's gonna throw when we are exactly. Exactly. See, it's all coming together. Our grand Hawaiian plan. But truthfully, I love those aspects of Hawaiian culture because as an Australian, I'm obviously familiar with a number of the different Polynesian cultures, especially like
Yeah.
Maori, Samoan, which is very closely linked, I believe, to native Hawaiian culture and ethnicity, and elements of like Melanesian and Micronesian culture. Like all of this is just like a very beautiful, rich tradition that I don't know. It kind of surprises me that people reduce it down so much. Like, actually, here's a question for you. I would be very curious to ask. I, as a Disney fan, I'm a huge fan of Lilo and Stitch. And while obviously they represent a very specific family story, do you feel like some of those little elements and notes seen in Lilo and Stitch are reminiscent of what life is like day to day in the culture?
Mm, well, I don't know about day to day because I think they're on Kauai. Like, I don't think they're on Oahu. Um, and I've never lived on any other island. Because where they were, it seemed like really country kind of, like more so than where I live.
But you see, these are things I would love to learn more about because it's like you say, Tim, people learn from the culture from what gets filmed, presented, and represented. And I'm always curious, like, how much of this is legit sees, how much of this is representing, and how much of this is cutting corners, leaning on tropes, perhaps, to kind of fumble one's way through a narrative. But that's really, really good to know. What is Hawaii like, though, in terms of things like being fat, body positivity, gaining? What is it like in terms of that?
So honestly, it's not really talked about. Like, if you gain weight, then people don't really bring it up. I mean, there is like one ethnic culture that I don't think I can say that always brings it up for whatever reason. I don't really know why. Like in my friend group, there's seven of us, and four, I think, have gained like a significant amount of weight since high school. And no one has said anything. Like, it's just something that happens. And I think most people here just think it's disrespectful to talk about weight. So they just don't. Unless you're like really old or something and you weren't raised like recently. Because my grandma will bring it up, but um, she's like 91. So,
That's fair. I think that also tracks for a lot of like modern Western cultures, especially. It's very like people of a certain generation are very quick to being like, "You look fat, you gained weight," in that kind of, rough old person voice that comes. Because I feel like the stereotype of like Nana who would speak like, "Oh dear, you my little grandchild." Like, no, they're dead now. I don't know what happened to those old biddies, but they are dead. The only old nanas I fucking know about are the ones who sound like they were smoking crack in the war. Like, just like Atlantis. They sound like
Yeah,
Packers.
yeah.
Like, come
I think that's because spite is a good preservative. I think there are quite a few old people who are living out of sheer spite.
hmm,
yeah, no, my grandma's like that. Like, she's so mean, but like, she's still going.
still kicking. Listen, shout out to Nana for for still going. It makes sense that, like modern cultures are very like hesitant, I suppose, to really address weight. And I will say, speaking from my own experience with growing up around Polynesian kids, like there is certainly something in the water genetically where like people of a certain ethnic background are more inclined to put on weight and store weight. And I think like a study years ago didn't really come to anything conclusive, but they were basically like, yeah, resources on islands are minimal, so their bodies probably evolved to like store shit because you may not have as
Oh,
much active resources as other places, which is like, yeah, that makes sense. So,
yeah, that does make sense.
yeah. And in the conversation wider about bodies and how some people really moralize weight, I do find that very interesting that, not so long ago, people really did just sort of grow bigger or grow into different shapes because it made sense with the movement of the sun or the season or the amount of crops one was able to harvest in a given period. And yet, all of this like bullshit that now exists around fatness because of all the nonsense in the world. But if I can ask here as well, like, what are resources like in Hawaii for growth? Because I know you're on a gaining journey. Do you find that there's retailers who maybe provide more for larger sizes, or is it maybe a little bit sparse?
See, thankfully, I'm still large. It's just everything is tight on me. And I guess there's some like my work uniform. When I sit down, the buttons strain, but when I'm standing, it's okay. There's like an outlet mall like 3 miles away from where I live, and they actually have a lot of like XL, and I think I saw it go up to 3XL because I was like, oh my God, this is such a cute like baggy moment. But they have like a lot of like bigger size things for, I wouldn't say cheap because nothing here is cheap, but it's like reasonable. So it's not so bad to buy things like clothes, but like buying food is awful here. Like everything is so, so expensive.
Mm. I can imagine, reflecting on the international aisle back home and even here. Actually, that's an interesting comparison. Like, obviously, foods that are Australian made, things I've grown up with that I'm accustomed to thinking of at a certain price point. At the international aisle here, they're double the price, and it's just like import taxes all the time. And when you live in more isolated places, because this was a constant conversation in Australia about rural support, like rural areas that are like trying to grow and trying to attract people, and then people may move out there for farming reasons or mining or whatever else. But then it's like I'm making so much more money, but I am blowing all of that on groceries because it's like $15 for a bottle of milk because you're just trying to ship it in there. Why is it so much extra expensive? Like, Tim, from your perspective of things, like, do you find that there is much that ends up getting marked up because of, like, and I'm talking big people products, like big sizes, food for like muscle gaining and things like that. Like, do you find things have a bit of a markup in Cleveland?
I guess it depends on what it is you're talking about. Like if it's clothing, larger sizes, it depends on where you're shopping. Like if you went to Walmart and you were looking for a 4XL, it's probably not going to be that much more than the other sizes. If you go to the mall, then yeah, if they even carry that size. When it comes to food, unfortunately, food is going up in price all over the United States right now. It's just there's it's a political thing because they keep arguing about inflation and blah 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 blah, and our politics is a mess right now. But yeah, the price of food has increased, and what used to what I like I could go to the grocery store, spend maybe 120 dollars and have enough food for 3 weeks. It's like now whittled down to like maybe a week and a half at that price. So
I suppose I'd be curious to know for you, Elijah, like, for any listeners who maybe are Hawaiian and maybe, well, I don't know where they might be out on their gaining journey, but do you have any specific recommendations in terms of like, you mentioned there's like an outlet mall with certain sizes. Are there certain brands or retailers that you would recommend locals check out if they're a little bit uncertain where to find those types of things?
I saw a lot of like bigger sizes at like Old Navy and the Gap. I mean, I didn't go to like all the stores at the outlet mall, but those were the ones that I went to, and I was like, I would just see huge pieces of clothing just like hanging, and I was like, wow.
So when because obviously referencing Tim here and his experiences with wider US access to stuff, how do you end up perceiving gaining in more heavily represented places like continental US, the UK, Germany? What's your take on gaining and the culture in these types of places?
I mean, I always see pictures of like Gromoffs on social media and on Grommr, and like that to me is just like bonkers because I feel like here we only have just like a handful of gainers to begin with. And, like I don't even know if everyone has met anyone else. So like just having like a huge gathering of gainers in like such a big city is like crazy to me.
It's kind of crazy to me that they're not doing Grommr in Hawaii because I mean, you want to talk about a perfect location. It's tropical. There's beaches. Maybe the access to food is what's holding them back. I mean, maybe the fact that food is so pricey that's I don't know. I haven't spoken to any other Hawaiian gainers, but I would think that it would be the perfect place to do it. You're in paradise.
Yeah, and the food is amazing here. But like my favorite McDonald's breakfast, I mean like what I'll eat to get like really stuffed, costs like $60. So
Wow. See, this also, okay, because we've been talking about this a little bit recently. We need to, as a wider community, really begin to deconstruct the narrative of like living off of junk food. Because for the longest time, it's like, y'all get some nutrients, please. But now it's like, we need to just, the fantasy of like junk food is cheaper. Girl, in this current culture, and it's not. It really is not. I promise you, learn to cook. Rice is great. Big old bag in the rice cooker. It'll do you. Though you know what? Let me ask you this, right? Like we'll snap our fingers and we'll say, okay, you have access to unlimited resources, unlimited money, unlimited all of the things, right? And you have decided you're gonna throw the ultimate Hawaiian Grommr, right? And let's say a good number of people show up. It's all very exciting. Like, what are you gonna do for this Hawaiian Grommr? Like, what do you want to see there? What kind of activities do you want to do? What kind of foods do you want to see there? Walk us through this Hawaiian game of fantasy.
hmm, I don't know about activities because do big guys do a lot? Like, wouldn't it just be a lot of sitting and talking? And maybe lounging around?
Lounging, most definitely. Tim.
I mean, it depends on the person. Like I've seen gainers on Grommr that have taken pictures at the top of Machu Picchu. So it just depends on the person.
Oh, see, maybe I'm just really lazy. But
Well, there's also something I'll say here, right? Like, and again, referencing Australia, because people, and Tim, you've been one of such people to basically highlight, like, I show you the pictures, and you're like, oh my God, how gorgeous! How could you walk away from golden sandy coastlines? And for me, it's like, well, I grew up with it, you know? Like me visiting Hawaii, I would probably feel a little similarly about the beaches. I'd be like, oh, that's, it's a nice beach. It's like we have those in Australia too. Like, not to say I wouldn't be impressed, but it's like if I'm gonna go to Hawaii, I'm thinking I'm gonna go for culture. I'm gonna go for food. I'm gonna go for people. I'm gonna go for things other than what sort of standard. And so maybe that's part of it for yourself. Living in Hawaii, it's like, yeah, the beach. I live next to it. Like, it's not necessarily special to go and have a beach day or to go swimming. Though I suppose Hawaiian Grommr, maybe you would do some kind of a beach thing. Maybe it's like, I
mm,
don't know how things are set up there, but maybe it's like if you're grilling on the grass, having something to eat, and then it's like, hey, who wants to come for a swim? Or who wants to just like lounge around in hammocks or just like laying on the sand enjoying the day. Like I would think something like that.
yeah, and I guess I would want some stuff on the beach just so I could see everyone shirtless. But
I mean, listen, and to reference back to Lilo from Lilo and Stitch here, she's got that moment where because she takes photos of the fatties and she puts them up on her wall, and she's like, "Aren't they beautiful?" I feel seen by Lilo. Um, though someone was like, it had something to do with like the voyeurism of like Americans in Hawaiian culture type of thing. Like someone on like a Tumblr thread was basically like the reason why she takes photos of them and the reason why they're depicted as so fat is because they're Americans and they're just American tourists who are like there in her home world. Like taking photos of all these things as if it's like this exotic, like, ooh, the jungle, ooh, the locals, yada yada yada. And so like her taking photos is like, oh, you're an oddity, you're an exotic thing. Snaps photo like something like that. Does that resonate with you at all?
yeah, I mean, you don't really see that many big people here. I mean, I know that's like kind of weird, but like you really don't see a lot of really big people who live here. And I guess like even like part of her taking pictures, because I know that the one who kept dropping his ice cream, he was white. White people are actually a minority here, so that could also be why too.
Interesting.
Yeah, Asians take up the majority.
I mean, that also kind of makes sense. Like that's also a thing for a lot of like Pacific Island culture is like the prevalence of East Asian, I think more specifically. Although, like, I think because of was it the West India Company specifically? Like, I think Fiji specifically has a very high like Fijian, like Indo-Fijian culture, like mixed race Fijian Indian. And I don't know what the specific background politics were to that. So if anyone listening is Fijian or lives in Fiji and would like to speak on that, please feel free to reach out because I'd love to know more. But I want to ask you here, because we were talking just briefly about Grommrs, what is the gainer community like in Hawaii?
I mean, for me, it's like kind of non-existent. But there also was a gainer who lived here who moved away maybe a couple years ago. And I remember he hated it here as well, just because like there really isn't a community. So,
I mean, that's understandable though. This is something that we see reflected in a lot of places where things are a little bit more isolated. It is hard to develop community when there's just not as many people around. I remember growing up in Perth, I was one of five guys that I ever saw online. And two of those guys were dating at the time that I was there. And I just remember thinking, because one of them moved away, and then the other one, I think he was in the military for a bit. So I just remember being like, so if I want a boyfriend, do I have to like wait for you two to break up? Like, do you know what I mean? It's this weird commodification of people, which is a weird way to think in the wider narrative of things. But with our community being as spread out as it is, it can be challenging to really think like, how do I create something here when there doesn't necessarily feel like there's a lot to begin with. So, as always, we like to encourage our listeners, especially those of whom live in Hawaii or are traveling to Hawaii, please make sure when we do the socials at the end of this, be hitting up our dear Elijah and building some community. God damn it. But I do also want to inquire because we talked about that Grommr and it just got me thinking. And this is your fault, Tim, because I'm now thinking like luau's with like roasted pigs, and I'm like, God damn, that's all that's in my head.
Well,
But
I gotta say, like, if money was no object, I would move to Hawaii, buy a large enough house and establish a gainer B&B so that gainers that want to take their Hawaiian vacation could come stay at the B&B. And then, yeah, you might not have permanent community, but you'd have this great transient community that would come in and out for, weeks or maybe even months if you felt like renting out a room to them for that much time. But and then I just, I just keep getting this image of me golden tanned on the beach wearing a muumuu and like fat as hell. So
So with that image in mind, I want to inquire, like, what are your favorite Hawaiian snacks, drinks, and meals?
okay, yeah, this was like my favorite question. Um, I really like spam musubis. It's like a slice of spam and it's kind of like sushi. So there's like rice and nori wrapped around the seaweed. There was a time when I would eat four of those for lunch at work, but it just got so expensive. And I know I could make it, but I'm just so lazy and I'd rather not spend my time making food for work. So I only eat two now, which is kind of sad. But and at our 7-Elevens, it's like a convenience store. They have tofu musubis, which are also very good. Because I just really like tofu. And for drinks, we have this drink here called Pog. And it consists of passion fruit juice, orange juice, and guava juice. And it's no, it's so freaking good. Like I would drink like a whole big glass of it, which is like it comes in or actually it comes in quarts and gallons, but my mom always buys the quart, and it's like I'll finish maybe like a third of it in just like one sitting because it's so yummy. And for like full meals, there's this one restaurant chain, I guess, called Zippy's. And they actually opened one in Vegas recently. So it's not only in Hawaii anymore, but they have like Korean fried chicken, which is just like fried chicken with like kind of a spicy teriyaki sauce on it, and it's so good.
Girly, Korean barbecue, anything turns my pussy out so fucking hard. Like, oh my God. Like, gochujang has to be one of my favorite flavor enhancers to anything ever. Oh,
What? That's so spicy.
I love it. Like, obviously, you don't use like a hell a lot, but it's like if I'm doing ribs or if I'm doing anything where it needs to like marinate, I love using like gochujang, like a big old heaped tablespoon paste, thwack right on top, rub that shit in. Like, it is just like, but all of that sounds delicious. And what about meal? So you sort snack, drink, but what about the meal? What are we having? What's for mains?
I really like chicken katsu. Like there's this one, we call it Korean barbecue here, but my boyfriend who lives in Southern California, he said that they call it Hawaiian food, which is like incorrect because Hawaiian food is like, when I think Hawaiian food, I think of like traditional Hawaiian food. So there's a K barbecue place up the road from my house, and they make like this chicken katsu plate that's like so good. And like all the sides are really good too.
I do love katsu curry. I think it's more Japanese in origin. But you mentioned like traditional Hawaiian. Like I know like poke bowls have become like very trendy at the moment, especially like here
Mm.
in London. Like what other kind of like traditional Hawaiian foods are there that people are sleeping on?
Ooh, okay, I might get hate for this. I don't really care for Hawaiian food. I mean, it's just like I think because I don't eat pork, because a lot of it's like kulua pig, which is like pig wrapped up in like banana leaves, and traditionally it's like cooked underground, and I don't eat that. Um, and there's also poi, which is like mashed up taro, and my mom eats it like kind of in like a more, I want to say American, because she puts like milk and sugar, but usually like Hawaiians would just eat it like as the paste with their fingers. Um, but I don't really care for poi either. And there's also like chicken long rice, which has chicken, which I eat, but I just don't really care for it. It's like rice noodles with chicken, like shredded up chicken.
I mean, Tim, have you had the chance to sample much like because I know you're probably more adventurous than most in your willingness to like try new foods. Have you had much of what would be considered Hawaiian food in the past?
No, because I don't think that there's anything that this far east on the continental United States that is there's no establishments that sell like traditional Hawaiian fare. You know, like there's restaurants that'll do kitschy, stupid shit. Like they'll say, "Oh, this is the Hawaiian something or other." That they'll just. It's kind of like when I took you to Outback Steakhouse, right? It's like there's no such thing as a bloomin' onion in Australia, but you know, but they'll call it like, oh, this is Australia's bloomin' onion. You know, it's like you'll find kitschy shit like that in certain restaurants. Tiki bars are really are kind of popular again, and they'll do things that say, oh, it's Hawaiian, but it really isn't.
I don't even think tikis are from Hawaii, right? I think
I
that's
don't
more of
think
like
so. I think they're
a,
from Fiji.
yeah, because I've only seen like tikis here at Aulani, which is the Disney resort.
Interesting. And I think even like pineapple. Like everyone thinks that the pineapple is like a very specific like Hawaiian thing, but didn't it come from South America?
Well, I think that currently they're like mass produced here. I think it's either from Maui or Kauai. I'm not sure which island, but
Hmm.
because we even have Dole Plantation here on Oahu, but I don't think that they grow a lot of the pineapple here.
I also wanted to ask you, by the way, when you were growing up, were there any Hawaiian characters that inspired you? Like cartoon characters, perhaps, or people you saw on TV, anything like that?
Not really, because for me, most of like my gaming like inspiration, I guess, came from people I was talking to on Grommr. Because before I had found Grommr. I was just like a chaser. Like I just knew that I was like really into big guys and I was actually like really, really skinny. Like I was only like 124 pounds when I graduated high school. When I was talking to guys on Grommr and they would like send me videos like shaking their fat, like I would get so jealous. And then like in turn I would get hungry. And then that's kind of how I started gaining. There is like a local singer who actually had passed, but he was like huge. Like if you Google him, his name, or you could Google Brada is um and he was like massive, massive, massive. But like back then, I mean I guess even still now, like I don't have a goal to get that big, so I wouldn't say that he influences me.
I remember him.
And what
Yeah. He sings Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Mm.
yeah, Israel Kama Kawiwa Ole, is it?
Kamaka Viva Ole. Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah, and I think his version of Over the Rainbow has become more popular than Judy Garland's, hasn't it?
It's kind of on equal footing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
When it comes to, I mean, obviously you've expressed it like you don't necessarily feel like there's much community for you in Hawaii, but when it comes to engaging with guys online, do you find that there are any like phrases that you're like prone to using? Like, I'd be curious to know, because in Australia they don't necessarily teach kids any native languages. Do you know any Hawaiian? Like, is it taught? Is it shared with people?
Not really. I mean, there are like one of my coworkers, she puts her kids through a Hawaiian charter school where they only speak Hawaiian there. But when you live here, you learn like just like words and maybe some phrases. Like one, it's not really Gainer related, but I mean, maybe kinda that I learned actually in middle school. It's not Hawaiian, but it's Hawaiian pidgin, which is like slang. It's Kanakatak, and it's basically like a food coma. So like you would use it like if you eat a lot, then you just like say like, oh, Kanakatak, meaning like I just ate so much I need to go to sleep. So
You're not having a Kanak attack. It's just the expression of like, ugh, Kanak attack. I'm done.
yeah, yeah,
I
Okay.
guess it's kind of equivalent to when you say cunts fucked. Well, I
No.
mean, not in the way like cunts fucked means like, yeah, I know you explained what that means to me, but like when I think about throwing that out, like, oh, cunts fucked, knack attack.
Yeah. Okay. I see where you're going with there. I was like,
Yeah.
construct means something is broken beyond repair. I don't think that's what that
Yeah,
means.
no, I know.
But no, like Kanak attack. I think that's fabulous. Kanak attack. There you go. Love that.
yeah. Because it rhymes, so it's like better than food coma.
Yeah. I'm at Kanak attack. Ah, cute. I feel like it's maybe a little bit silly to say like what changes you want to see in the local gaming community, but from what you observe online, let's expand that a bit. What do you want to see shift in the gamer community at large?
I do think that there's like a lot of toxicity in the gaming community. So I kind of just avoid the global news feed because I don't want to deal with any of that or like see any of that. So that's like one thing. There's just like a lot of anger and just like unpleasantness in the community, I think so.
Well, let me ask you about that because obviously throughout the history of the podcast, we have plenty of people who will come on and share and say like, I got a gripe or I've got something to say about this. And I think that's totally fair because if that's your experience, that's the tea. It is what it is. From your observation, and I think that's so interesting, being so far removed physically and literally in Hawaii and still being able to very firmly identify that there are these attitudes, shall we say. What do you feel like that is surrounded by? As in, like, when you say that there are people who are like, they're frustrated or they're angry or they're, being a little bit like this, what is that about? Why do you interpret the people are feeling such a way?
I mean, I was talking to my boyfriend about it one day because I forgot what I had seen, but I was just like so irritated. And then I was just like, it's probably just because they're like mad about like their image, like, because as gainers, we get a lot of hate from the outside world, and I feel like it's so easy to just be like, like kind of hate yourself for gaining. Um, like even if you present yourself as like, oh, I love my body and stuff, like I feel like if you get enough like hatred, like, oh, you should lose some weight, you like really let yourself go, like stuff like that. I feel like that could trigger people to like hate on other gainers. Like, because I just like don't understand. Like most of the gainers are on the same mission to get bigger. Like, why are you tearing each other down? Doesn't make sense.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Tim, I'll throw to you here. In this current day and age, when you see people expressing some sense of chagrin in the community, what kind of subjects do you interpret that those are around about?
The one that I see the most often is people just complaining about the fact that like every gainer has got a Patreon or OnlyFans now, which we've discussed many times on the podcast. That like that's just kind of the way things have to go. Gaining is not cheap, and yet you might have a full-time job, you might only have a part-time job, you may be making a pittance at whatever job you've got. You got to supplement somehow, you know. And when the trend happened and everyone started moving towards paid content, you know, I was a little like, ah, Christ, here we go. But like, I get it, and I can't really fault anybody for having a side hustle. Like, it's, you got to pay for the food somehow. Like whether you're whoring yourself out for cheeseburgers or you're posting nudes online for $5.99 a month, you got to do what you got to do.
I feel like the only iteration of that I truly feel like not comfortable with at this stage is when people like direct message you asking you if you would like to.
Well, no, I was gonna say this is kind of like modern day door-to-door vacuum cleaner salespeople. It's like
I,
someone's knocking on your door, like, "Hey, you want to buy some of my stuff?"
yeah, yeah. It's a bit cringe. That part in particular. But obviously people like making their coin and doing what they've got to do. Like, no judgment. Do do the thing. Especially your Hawaiians out here with your $60 McDonald's. Girl, that is terrifying.
Oh my God! Like if I spent $60 at McDonald's, I better be feeding like an army.
No, it's just one breakfast. And I don't even eat that much, I don't think. So.
That is wild.
I'm just kind of curious about the natural beauty of Hawaii. I've seen plenty of pictures, and you know, I've seen waterfalls and volcanoes and pristine beaches, and you know, like, is it as gorgeous as the entertainment industry has made it look?
I do think, like, in terms of like flora, absolutely. Like, in my neighborhood, just like walking, or I guess you would drive, but it's better if you walk actually. Just leaving my suburb is just lined with like they're called monkey pod trees, which are like rain trees. I forget what they're called, but they're like really big and pretty. And there's plumeria trees like in between each of the monkey pod trees. There's hibiscus bushes growing everywhere. Like in terms of flora, it's beautiful. Even on the way to work, it's just like lined with plumeria trees, going down. But for beaches, the beaches on Oahu are not so amazing. I mean, like the water, because the beaches on Maui, I guess because there's less people there, the water is like clear, but on Oahu, it's more murky. I think it's from all the sunscreen. I'm not sure though.
Oh my god, it makes me think of that Catherine Tate skit where she's like, "Don't let the gingers move next door. We don't want them cluttering our streets with their empty bottles of sunblock." But
Well,
apparently,
I think that was the reason why now sunscreen companies have to make it ocean safe.
Yeah, yeah, because it was killing the coral.
Christ, all my fucking. Ugh. As a last question here, I wanna put it to you. What is the number one thing about Hawaii that you want to be asked about?
I love when guys visiting here, like you know how you can change your location on Grommr when they like change their location and then they write like where should I eat? Like I absolutely love when guys ask that because I'll like have a whole list for them and like what to get at every place.
See, that's fabulous. I love that you've got like that list ready to go for Oahu, which is fabulous. So that when Tim and I eventually come visit and, you know, come, knock on the door. Like, hello, Elijah girl. We need you to come and show us where the good eats is at.
I would love that.
But I think that wraps up for today. Elijah, thank you so much for your time today, this wonderful morning, sharing all of your experiences. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Now, where can our listeners find you online?
I'm on Instagram, Grommr, Twitter, and I have an OS if I can mention that. And it's
Yes, you could.
all okay, and it's all as pandacubwannabe.
Fabulous. Well, that's it for another week here on Thicc Radio. Please remember to like and subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and leave us a good review. If you liked this episode of the podcast, or just us in general, please share it with your friends and encourage them to tune in. You can find me on Instagram and BlueSky at stannnum.
And you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok at ThiccMouse. You can also look us up on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Thicc Radio, or on our website at podpage.com/thiccradio. If you want to submit a voice note or become a financial supporter of the show, you can find the links in the show notes, and you can always write to us at thiccradio@gmail.com. So until next time, bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Let's talk about it.
Thicc Radio is a Patreon and Anchor app podcast produced by Stan and Thiccy Mouse.
Mixed and mastered by Stan.
Our artwork is provided by Lokitu.
Our theme song is provided by Spotify.